When I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Doni and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
my head up.
I'm from South Carolina, so I just
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Mars?
Oh, my heart.
Happy 20th anniversary.
My heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? John.
And dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself.
The doctor lived next door to the janitor to the reverend and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Doni, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all the more.
Letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. We want you to be safe out here on these roads. If you are driving, it is almost torrential rainfall. Today's guest is Baltimore City Councilwoman Phylicia Porter. We saw her on the news last week. What really caught my attention was, now I wasn't there, I was watching it through the television like many of you, but I saw one woman on the scene. I'm sure the councilwoman is going to tell us who else was there, but I saw one woman in the middle of all of these men discussing the most important tragedy that's happened in our lifetime. Baltimore City Councilwoman Phylicia Porter, good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Were you, in fact, the only woman on the scene? Elected official wise? Yeah,
elected official wise, I was, but I want to lift up the women staffers that have been working around the clock, not only within the Scott administration, but also the Moore Miller administration. One of them that I just want to reign true is CAO Faith Leach, who was there. She's been there at the EOC Center. She's been at the helm a lot of this. Director Corinne Johnson from DOT has been there. So it's a lot. I saw on one of your clips just now, the lady mentioned about the sisters behind her. And I will tell you, there's a lot of Black women and a lot of women in general in Baltimore City that are behind not only me, but just behind each other. Mm-hmm.
Now, we tried to break down the fancy acronyms, and you use it every day.
Yes.
For those who don't know, what is CAO?
CAO is your Chief Administrative Officer. So it is your number 2 in command that manages all of the city agencies throughout Baltimore City. And
I met Faith at the grand opening of Prim and Proper.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you doing? How did you wake up that morning? I mean, didn't expect to be at a press conference. This happened 1 a.m.
Yeah. So I actually woke up with the news. I actually saw it on Twitter firsthand, and I didn't know if it was real. One of the major things stemming from the Brooklyn incident is really figuring out where where this tragedy happened, whether it's in my district, whether I need to support other council members, or whether I need to support other jurisdictions. Councilman Pete Smith over in the Anne Arundel County side, we have a great relationship. So that was just my main source of kind of getting my bearings and getting my ground. as you can understand, it was something that I did not want to wake up to. In those types of situations, I instantly compartmentalize, because as an elected official, you have to keep the trains going and you have to keep going. And so emotion at that time is not really something that I was leaning into. It really was making sure that not only my people were okay, but also that my city was okay.
When did it hit you?
It hit me about a day and a half later, and it was a very specific incident. I was at dinner because I hadn't eaten that day. We are just, we were just working around the clock. Not only
adrenaline, I imagine.
Yeah, excuse me, not only was the mayor working around the clock, I was, watching him and kind of shadowing him, but his team was working around the clock. My team was working around the clock. And it hit me as I was at dinner, and I just instantly started crying. And for those that know me, they know that I am not a very emotional person.
You tough tone. You tough tone. You come out with the faux at the door.
I'm not a very emotional person. And so like when I get emotional, and when I start to feel, the gravity of the situation, I instantly have to stop. And so that was a moment in time for me, one, to seek out my therapist. So I actually go to a therapist weekly.
Me too.
Yeah, I go to a therapist weekly, and, to really ground myself in the event and just kind of let it out. Because I found that from the Brooklyn incident, that took me a long time to get over. That took me at least 6 months to really mentally get back into a space where I was comfortable. And so
why?
Why? Oh my gosh. It's so many things. One, I think sometimes, people really don't understand that we as elected leaders are human too. We are not celebrities. If you are doing it right, you are feeling every single thing that your people are going through. So whether it be job loss, whether it be tragedy, death, or injury, whether it be just anything, you are feeling it and you're taking that on. And you are kind of, that's how really you should be guided through your policy. And so from Brooklyn, I knew that my district, which is one of the more economically challenged districts, I knew that one, I had to make a plan very quickly to, collaborate and coordinate stakeholders, not only at the community level, but every level of government. So they understand that this is not just a mass shooting that is simply going to be repetitive. This is a tragedy that would need to have some sort of action behind it. And I needed to develop a plan pretty quickly from that, which takes time. And it takes a mental toll on you as well.
So I heard something that just left. Okay. President Biden said, I'll pay for the bridge.
Yes.
I read yesterday where Lords of London is talking about, I guess it was $1 billion check.
Yes.
How does that work?
Yeah. So, I think, I know that, when we start talking about the economic impact of this particular port, I believe that people are now beginning to see when, elected officials, when people in Baltimore say that Baltimore is really an economic engine, not only just for the state of Maryland, but regionally, globally, internationally. I don't think really many people were connecting that was actually a true statement. And what we are seeing now with the reduced operations of the port, we are now seeing how different countries, different regions of the world are impacted simply by Baltimore. When I travel across the world, when I tell people I'm from Baltimore, they say home of the wire. And I often remind them we are so much more than just the wire. We are a global force here on the East Coast.
We were on the front page of the New York Times headline, front right, yesterday.
I'm sorry.
we were on the front page of the New York
Oh,
Times
yes.
yesterday, and just in terms of the national and international impact.
Yes.
But what I'm getting to is, how do we unpack who owes who?
Oh,
The money.
yeah.
Lords of London. If the president says we'll pay for it,
Yeah.
what are you paying for? Lords of London has it insured.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a, God forbid, a car accident,
Mm-hmm.
and I hit somebody, or somebody hits me, the insurance company pays, provided they're both insured,
Yes.
pays the bill.
Yes.
Where's this third party, Mr. President, coming in? Oh, I'll pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we don't have a lot to pay for,
Yes.
but and then then there's the governor, and we see him on television on a regular now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my God, is this man running for president?
Well, I think he's just advocating for the state of Maryland.
Right.
We get a lot of news requests. I will tell you. I mean, we get a lot of news requests. Mm-hmm.
But the money. Tell me about the money. Do you understand it yet, or is it a lot?
So I will tell you, I think, that is still an ongoing investigation and conversation. I will tell you, I'm not in some of those rooms when they are talking about it, but I know that those conversations are happening. And I know that upon further investigation, there's going to be a plan of action on one who is liable, who is, responsible for this particular incident. And I have full faith that our city and state leaders are going to do that. And they're going to figure it out.
Then we hear yesterday, Sunday, Mitch McConnell's relative owns the company that the Guatemalan workers were employed by.
Mm-hmm.
And so there, then there's a question of who's reaching out to the Latino community.
Yes.
We talked with, I'm not sure if you know Janet Arce.
Yes.
Janet has given us some insights. She says she's working with at least one of the 6 families, one of the 6 Guatemalan families.
Nice.
So this port accident, it's historic. I mean,
oh, yeah, it's once in a generation. This type of tragedy, I would argue that this is once in a generation type of incident. And I will tell you also, over the past 4 years, Baltimore City, particularly in District 10, we have seen our fair share of once in a lifetime. Unfortunately, it has been for these types of tragedies, but we've always pulled through. And to your point about just the connectedness of the port to other economic drivers throughout the nation, we are already seeing, discussions at the federal level in the House about how, Baltimore doesn't deserve this funding. And, Senator Van Hollen and Senator Cardin and Congressman Mfume, they will make the case that Baltimore needs this funding and how it impacts the entire nation. Mm-hmm.
Somebody said that Baltimore doesn't deserve the funding.
Oh, yeah. I mean, here's the thing, and I often remind people when you have an elected official, it is not simply just being in pictures or going to fundraisers. It is advocating and strategically advocating for your district in order to make sure your people are okay. And the stakes get even higher when we talk about at the state and federal level. When people view Baltimore, they don't view Baltimore always in the most positive light. And for me personally, that is why I always show up. That is why I always show up prepared and ready to go, because at any given time, you are going to need to make a case, not only to administrations, but also to your colleagues about the importance of not only your district, but your city, but also your region as well.
Tell me about the geographical interrelationship, the interconnectivity, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County. The bridge does touch those 3 jurisdictions?
It does, yes. And so when you talk about, just how the actual Key Bridge, the Francis Scott Key Bridge was developed back in 1977, it was a way for jurisdictions to connect primarily in South Baltimore over to the Anne Arundel County line and to like Trade Point Atlantic. So it was really a bridge to kind of connect the jurisdictions. And so when with the fall and the tragedy of that bridge collapsing, and there is significant kind of regional issues, regional kind of port issues, regional economic drivers that are negatively affected now.
What jobs wise, have you seen any job losses in your district?
So I haven't seen any personally. What I do know is that there are reduced operations at the port. What they're trying to do, because the port is actually represented by Councilman Costello and myself. And so I know that the executive director of the port with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development is working with kind of the union members to kind of really have those discussions. What I am worried about are those shift workers that are not necessarily affiliated with the union. So we are talking about those shift workers that are working shift wise, that are not necessarily connected with the union, but they have no way of getting connected to our offices as well. And so those are the ones that I'm really worried about, because when we talk about that 8,000 workers that work at the port that are traditionally and primarily affected, we need to be looking at the larger sphere, the 15,000 workers, and that's on the low end of businesses that are connected to the port that will be infected by this as well.
So I now understand that there, like with COVID, there is money that will be available for businesses.
Yes. Low interest loans through the Small Business Administration. And so, excuse me, they do have eligibility criteria. And so I believe that Governor Moore and Mayor Scott, they are opening a small business center today on the Care First campus on Clinton Street for affected businesses and workers to actually go in person to kind of navigate, whether it be unemployment insurance, that small business loan, development or attainment, or just simply just navigating through the next steps from this tragedy.
So is this the east side or the west side of downtown?
So this is Canton. I want to say that is the east side.
That's
So
east
yeah,
side, yeah.
East side. I'm more west side, so I'm born and raised west side. So
it's on the other side of the water from where you are.
Yes, it is. Yes.
And so, do you think they can do more than just loans? Do you think there can be similar to some PPP money?
I don't know. So yeah, because that comes from the federal level, I don't know what discussions they are having or what approaches they are having after these small business low interest loans. I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. But I believe that we should be thinking broader. But yeah, I'm just not sure of where we are in that conversation.
That was our question over the weekend. Is our ask big enough? So initially when one of the first questions I posed was President Biden said, "Oh, I'll pay," and this is an election year. I get it. He should say that, but it's a long time, 10 years. Yeah. So he's saying, "Hey, I'll pay." Lords of London, they are one of that's the entity identified as the insurer. And so the broader question for Be More News is our ask large enough?
Yeah.
Have we assessed all that's involved? I mean, yesterday when I was listening to the woman commander from the Army Corps of Engineers, talk about how long it will take, the piece by piece. It just there's so much in this. And she said they move a piece out, then they have to reassess. They move another piece out, then they go back and reassess. We have to do the same thing as it relates to the money, though, right?
No, I do believe that. And I often remind people, and just to kind of level set expectations, I believe we are in day 5. And so, conversations or discussions about the long-term impact are still ongoing, but they're going to be fluid. They're going to be fluid into, to properly assess or make a confirmation or say that, we have to do these things in the immediate. I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time, but I also think that we have to have some flexibility and fluidity, that this is going to take time, but also this is going to be a assessment that is going to happen over time as well. It's not going to, happen in a day. This economic impact and assessment is going to happen over time.
Is it too soon to raise the question of minority business participation, minority business enterprise? The city has a mandate. Was it 29%? Where minority businesses in a 63% Black city that advocates for Black businesses to get a piece of the pie. What piece of the pie? Huh?
Yeah, absolutely not. It's not too early for something like that. I don't believe it's too early. And the reason why I say that is because when we're talking about, getting minority business enterprises into kind of this next phase of what that port operation will look like, that's definitely not too early to have that conversation. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Chris Lundy, I did speak with him yesterday on a separate matter, but we'd encourage and love to help cover those conversations, and we certainly want those conversations. We have a Black governor, we have a Black mayor, Black attorney general, so on and so forth, and considering Black business is something that we've advocated for as long as we've been around. Yeah, we want that out there. We did see, how did it, have you ever met a Coast Guard leader before?
Yes, I actually have, ironically. So there is a station in Curtis Bay.
A lot of us don't know what the Coast Guard does.
Yeah. They're very important for maritime, very important. And when we see these types of issues, as it relates to kind of issues on the sea, the Coast Guard is very important. It's a armed service that, one, many people don't understand, or they just necessarily don't really pay attention to, but they are extremely important. Extremely.
Do you have your own boat?
No, no, I don't have 250K or 20K, and that's on a small end. I don't have that. No, but
I guess where I'm really going is, have you been on a boat to see the wreckage up close? Yes,
I have. Yeah. So this past Sunday, I actually witnessed the wreckage up close, and the pictures don't do it justice. It kind of brought in all the feelings that I had before, just to kind of, sit with the gravity of this incident. You look at it up close, I personally drive across the Key Bridge for a number of meetings, a number of business meetings, just personal as well. And to see it up close and to see it kind of there in its current state is kind of astounding.
What do you think when you hear the stories of people who just missed it?
Oh my gosh. So I'm a woman of faith. So I understand that there are powers that be. I don't want to impose my religion on others, but there are powers that be and higher powers that kind of surround you and protect you. And when I hear some of the stories, particularly one, I am in awe of the power of God. I'm in awe of the power of just a supreme being, and I'm in power of faith. So it's surreal hearing those type of stories.
Okay, I don't want to ignore Thomas Briggs' question. What about owner-operators of independent trucks or truck drivers who have their own? How will an independent, have you come across that situation, a response to this question thus far?
Yeah, I have not come across that situation just yet. But Thomas, if you want to reach out to me after, I can send you the address to the business center on Clinton Street, and they should know the answer.
Okay. Good morning, Alexis, Coach. So in terms of being up close on it, so how did that go? It was you and other elected officials, or a handful?
Yeah, so it was other elected officials that represent the area. Mm-hmm.
Showing pictures that match.
One person said, well, I want to get back to that faith thing, and no, we can't talk about faith and religion. We're not trying to influence anybody, but have you run across any Black people who were just going across the bridge or just missed it?
No, I have not. No.
Okay, well, here's the question that I know you've been asked, because we've all heard it. This was 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
It could have been 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes, it could have.
Does it make you angry that this ship was out there the way it was, in the condition it was, without, and I don't know, I'm not trying to play Monday morning quarterback, but it looked like something wrong over here. It looked like some drunk driving, or, hey, and then where are the checks and balances?
Yeah.
Where were the lights?
Yep.
Where was the tugboat? How do you hit this big? How do you hit?
No, you're exactly right, and I'm confident that with this investigation, no stone will be left unturned. Those are some of the checks and balances that, of course, myself, other elected officials at multiple levels have had those questions. But the investigation is still ongoing. So I as well as city leaders, state and federal leaders, I know that they are looking forward to that investigation, that comprehensive investigation.
Did you realize the magnitude instantly? Did it take some time in terms of the impact, the global impact? Did you know it instantly?
No, I did not. Again, when you're in those first 24 hours, you are really just in go mode. And I believe in not only supporting our leaders, but also being of service. One of the things she said earlier in the interview was that, I was in the background. And I oftentimes remind leaders, it's okay to be in the background. It's okay to support.
But I saw you.
Yes, it's okay. Yes, but it's okay to support, because when you are in those,
you showed up.
Yes, when you are in those types of mission critical settings, there needs to be one sound, one voice, and there needs to be one person leading. Of course, you can offer your opinion. However, you need to be in support mode, and you need to know your lane and know how you can support the leaders that are actual decision makers.
Did you get a chance at all to talk to Johnny Ocheski?
Yes, I did. I did. And so he is also feeling it as well, being the leader of Baltimore County. So him and Mayor Scott, I know they are in constant communication and constant conversation, along with County Executive Stuart Pittman as well. Because
as I've watched the news, I've rarely seen Johnny Ocheski. I don't know that I've heard him comment at all. And his is one of the three jurisdictions. It's as if Baltimore, Governor Moore, Mayor Scott, those are the two go-to.
Yes.
When it affects more people.
Yeah.
Stuart Pittman, Johnny O.
Yeah, he has been there. He has been there. I can confidently say he has been there, and he has been asking those tough questions on behalf of Baltimore County.
And so, Johnny O is running a congressional race. I think Kim Klacik is his opponent.
Yes, in 3. And so he has been there. What I often remind people, just because you don't see them on the screen doesn't mean that they are not making impactful statements and they're not making impactful strategy on behalf of their jurisdiction. So he was there. I can confidently say that.
How does this work in the middle of an election? I mean, damn, if I'm running against Brandon, I'm like, damn, he's getting all kinds of free publicity.
He's doing his job, and that's what he should be doing. I think that when you talk about, this being an election year, we have seen the bipartisan support for this tragedy. Former Governor Hogan has come out. We've had
he's running for election though.
He's running for election, but he has come out and he has meet the workers. We've seen an incredible amount of bipartisan support for this. So even though it is an election year, I will tell you, the gloves need to come down when we talk about, electioneering and campaigning from this particular incident.
So it's a very fine line.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been called the Super Bowl of politics.
Mm.
Have you heard any support from neighboring states, Delaware, Jersey, Virginia?
Yes. Yeah, so I've had, just one of my personal mentors, Darius Brown, is a senator up in Delaware. He reached out to me. I'm a part of the National League of Cities. So it's just a conference of all the municipalities across the nation. They have been reaching out to me. Their policy team have been sharing kind of the not only the economic impact, just to help me and educate me on the economic impact. I know that they've been working also with the Scott administration as well. Mm-hmm. No, this is definitely going to affect not just Baltimore, and I believe that when we start talking about supply chain issues, and then just also the connection not only to Baltimore businesses but regional Baltimore businesses, we are going to see a vast economic impact that's going to take some time to solve.
So, where how does this affect or disaffect your calendar?
My calendar for what?
Moving forward. I mean, you have an election, you have other tasks and duties, you have projects you were already working on. Yeah. I mean, who knew you'd be fixing a bridge?
I know.
So from the election.
Yeah. So, the train still got to keep going. I have a wonderful team. My chief of staff, my community liaison, and my office manager are keeping the trains going from an office perspective. I am just maintaining focus on balancing those current projects that we had at the state level. I still haven't wrapped my mind around what the projects would be from this tragedy, but I definitely will have those conversations with the mayor and also our state level and federal level colleagues as well. But they need to develop a plan. So we need, I think that oftentimes we need to give space for leaders to develop those types of plans and see how you can fit in and see how your constituents can benefit from it.
Is there a website that's been put together specifically for this that we can announce or that's forthcoming? Or
yes, there is a few websites. So one, we have kind of a website that really just outlines where we are in kind of the particular process of remediation. And so it is, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but if you follow me on Facebook, Porter, Phylicia R. Porter, or Councilwoman Phylicia Porter, you'll be able to kind of get all of that information in one place. But then there's also kind of organizations, particularly the Baltimore Civic Fund, that are raising funds for the affected families. And then I know CASA also is raising funds for the affected families as well. And these are all on my social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook.
Any scammers that you've been made aware of?
I'm
leery.
I have not. I haven't.
Hey, I'm collecting money for the bridge.
Yeah. So I haven't been aware of any particular scamming incidences, but I will tell you that
we've seen this before. Freddie Gray.
We have, but I will tell you that the AG, the Attorney General Brown, I know he has been in conversations with all jurisdictions, and he is monitoring that as well. So, definitely kind of go to more the official kind of organizations. I think that would really serve people well.
Yeah, because it's 6 families, and then you got all of these people collecting money. I don't trust them, Councilwoman. We saw this crap with Freddie Gray. And then, oh, we didn't collect no money. Hold up, pimp. I saw you all on the news collecting money. Oh, we didn't collect that much money. Huh?
Yeah. And I think, it's so funny you mentioned that, because I think that was one of the main strategies of both, the EOC, which is the Emergency Operations Center. That was one of the main strategies to ensure that any funds that are collected, they are collected by verifiable organizations. I think that was one of the reasons why they set up.
I don't know what's verifiable. I saw verifiable people during Freddie Gray, and I ain't seen nothing verified in my. I live in Sandtown. We ain't seen a dime.
Well, Sandtown have been through some things. Yeah, Sandtown have been through some things. Yes. But I believe these are verified. So, I can put my stamp on it. I believe these are verified. Yes.
Black people, preachers, churches. Pimping has no boundaries. They respect no boundaries. We done seen them. Okay, Councilwoman, anything else we need to get on here? And when can we get you back? And yeah, when can we get you back on here?
So let's talk in the next couple of weeks. I think that, as this operation kind of undergoes, it's going to be a very fluid situation. But I think that, following the situation in its entirety is something that I'm committed to. But also, really giving space for our leaders to actually create a strategy, implement a strategy, and really think through a very comprehensive strategy for the entire city of Baltimore and the region. I think is going to be very important. So I can come back on in like a month or so, kind of give an update.
Yeah, follow the money. We do care about the families that were disaffected. I mean, that has to be, and my God, I got to ask you this. Life preservers. Nobody thinks, hey, I'm working on a bridge. Do I need a life preserver? First of all, you got to survive, the 180-foot drop.
Yeah.
And according to Michael Zolikoff yesterday, that's almost an instantaneous death, depending on, what they were in a vehicle. I mean, and to watch that, we're all traumatized.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And I think it shows incredible courage to that point. I think it shows incredible courage by Mayor Scott to kindly request people to stop sharing that video footage. When you share video footage like that, it's incredibly traumatizing for the families. It's incredibly traumatizing and desensitizing for the people that are actually watching it. We are, in that particular instance, we are watching life literally being taken away. It's completely unacceptable.
So we need to pull in some psychiatrists and psychologists, because I don't know that people are going to listen to his request, considering he's a big proponent of social media himself.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to say, hey, we're not doing social media today. Well,
I think it's the type of social media. So it's the type of social media that he's discussing and really kind of doubling down on.
He has boundaries.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't. I mean, have you seen some of the naked people on social media? There are no boundaries anymore.
Yes. No. So I do understand that there are boundaries, but just from a behavioral perspective, I think looking at why we feel the need to share that type of social media, I think, coming off of COVID and coming out of COVID, I think should be investigated. And, that's not my wheelhouse, but I can suspect that, we are becoming desensitized to those type of traumatic experiences. But it's really kind of the negative impacts that we are seeing from social media just across the nation and many different demographics that we are seeing. Just the negative impact of social media. Social media can be used in a very, very positive setting, sharing resources, connecting with friends and family, sharing life events and things of that nature. But it also has a very, very dark side as well.
Well, it did raise the question, was this terrorism?
Yeah, so it was, I believe it was deemed on the first day that this was not terrorism. So one of the agencies, Yeah, one of the agencies at the federal level quickly determined that it was not terrorism, and that's one of the myths that I am seeing on social media. And I think that, you know, again, that has to be kind of doubled down on, that this was not terrorism, because that also has another heightened effect coming off of 9/11, coming off of other terrorism incidents across the world.
Are we sure?
I believe so. Yes.
I mean, they don't know.
So I would argue that they do know. So there are people that spend their lives and their livelihood who know a lot more than I do about behavioral analysis and about just tracking these type of terror incidences. And I'm confident that they made the right assessment.
But you said it's still an investigation it's an ongoing investigation.
Yeah, so it's an ongoing investigation required about the execution and the tragedy itself. But the question of whether this is terrorism, that has been resolved.
Could we call it negligence? I mean, this ship did have some previous challenges in other parts, in other ports.
Yeah, so I'm not sure whether we can call it negligence just yet. I believe that, you know, once we get that investigation, then we can start making those start making those confirmation statements. But as of right now, no, because you don't know what happened on that ship. You know, you don't know what happened. You just see the aftermath of it, and
Somebody knows what happened. I mean,
well,
like for instance, if I hit a pole while driving, they're gonna give me an alcohol test or drug test. Do we know if the captain of the ship was given a sobriety test?
I believe that'll come out through the investigation. Again, it is day 5.
I'd have been locked up that night. Yeah. You'd have been locked up that night.
It's day 5, and so, you know, this is a very complex tragedy that requires an investigation. And so when we talk about some of these definitive statements, it's not necessarily as factual. We need to make sure that when the facts come out, we are able to make confirmations and definitive statements. Right now, we are just speculating.
Any final thoughts? Baltimore City Councilwoman Phylicia Porter. I think you stood in there.
Thank you, Doni.
Can't let you just give you a cakewalk.
No, and I appreciate that. You know, I think that, you know, one thing that I've learned over these 4 years is dissension, or healthy dissension and healthy accountability. That's what makes leaders better. I always definitely recommend someone challenge my thoughts, because that'll bring me more exposure and bring me more thought process to what I'm doing in my policy. So I definitely appreciate it.
If I could,
yes.
Are you pleased with the progress? You know, that tragedy aside, with what's, you know, your district endured the whole Brooklyn Park,
yes.
The shootings and the loss of life there. This has to be a double entendre, a doubling down on the stress.
Yeah.
I mean, damn, you didn't sign up for that. You just wanted, did you? You didn't see
all
this.
I didn't.
It was like the
I didn't.
times 2.
But I did at the same time. Like, you know, one of the, and you know me from my early days. I was a community organizer for about 10 years before I got to this point. So I shadowed many different elected officials, watched them navigate and maneuver. And just
it had nothing like this. You had the largest mass shooting, and then you got the largest bridge disaster. Is it the largest in American history?
I don't know about that, but I know that it's one.
You need a book. You need a book. You need a book.
So
and they need to put a picture of you with that overcoat on, the one that we promoted, this right there.
Yeah,
and you right there. Yeah. I'm like, go ahead, sister.
You know, but I argue, you know, when you become an elected official, you do sign up for this.
They didn't sign up for this.
When you said, but I would argue against that. We, as elected officials, we take in everything that comes our way during our term of service.
Yeah,
and if you are not mentally, physically, spiritually, financially prepared to take those types of worst experiences, you're not ready. You're not ready.
Not a lot of people are ready for it. You have stepped up to the plate, and that's why we salute you.
Thank you.
But I've seen some elected officials. I mean, I think back to Freddie Gray. There were people who didn't know that Freddie Gray was in their district. Don't make me call names.
No, don't
they
call
got the
names.
phone call, huh?
Don't call names now. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that I often remind people. Again, it goes back to the humanity of elected officials. You have, a couple choices in those types of situations. You can show up even when it hurts, even when you are like your mind is going like 30 to 40,000 miles a minute. But sometimes people need to go inward. People need to go inward and get ready and prepared, because I will tell you, there are a lot of stimuli, coming your way during those types of instances. And so you need to be ready to kind of take all of that. And some people need to go inward. I fully understand, I fully understand why some people go inward. That's just not how I lead, and that's not how I operate. And I've learned that through the tutelage of many of my mentors, not only here in the city of Baltimore, but just across the nation as well. You show up even when it hurts. That's a mantra in my office. So,
do you see yourself as mayor of Baltimore City?
As of right now, no. I have shadowed Mayor Scott on a number of occasions, and I tip my hat off to that man. I have watched him not only navigate the city through a global pandemic, but I have watched him through this particular experience lead in a way that is very precise, but also has a human aspect to it. I have watched Governor Moore do the same thing, and I've even also watched former Mayor Sheila Dixon. I believe in celebrating anyone who stands up to the helm of elected service. One person can really change the lives of 41,000 people at the councilmatic level, or even at the legislative level, or even 600,000 people at the city level. That one person has a lot of responsibility, So as of right now, no, I am focused on my council race. I'm still in campaign mode, but as of right now, I have a huge respect for any individual that steps up, especially Baltimore. I talked to some of my people across the nation. To be a mayor or an executive or a city manager at, in any city, any major metropolitan Black city across the nation, you are literally taking on a position and a posture that will encompass your life.
Have you met David Rubenstein yet?
No, I have not. No, I haven't. But I look forward to it. I hear he's very funny.
He's a billionaire.
Yeah. I mean, he put on his pants just like me.
Got to invite him to the next fundraiser. When is your next fundraiser?
Actually, tonight. So I have a busy
here.
Yeah, I have a busy day. So it's tonight.
Do tell. Where?
Yeah. So it's at Adventist House up in Hamden. So it's a Black-owned spot that, I'll be bringing some friends and family and some supporters too. And we're just going to be celebrating.
Well, hold up. What's the name of it?
Adventist House.
Adventist House?
Mm-hmm.
And is along 36th Street?
I can make sure you have the address for sure. I'll send it to you.
Well, we all about supporting Black-owned restaurants. We know Urban Oyster just opened up there, and that young lady has tried her hand a couple of times in different venues.
We tried to get her in South Baltimore. She was one of my first. Yeah, she was one of my first vendors that I used when I had I think it was like my first fundraiser that Senator Hayes had given for me, and Jasmine was my caterer. Yeah, so I believe in kind of recycling the Black dollar, but also giving opportunities to some of these small businesses. Yep.
Do you see Antonio Hayes running for mayor after? I
don't know. I mean, I think he would be great. I think he would be great. That's another one where I have learned from him. I've learned from his opportunities for growth, but I've also learned from his successes as well. And so, given his nearly 30-year experience, I believe he has that opportunity to serve higher. But, it's up to him. It's up to him. It ain't, like, people need to really understand that, like, while you want to call somebody to run for elected office, the person should have that inside of their mind. Whether they are going to run for office, they need to do a self-evaluation on whether that leadership whether they have that particular leadership in order to serve at that level. Like, with higher level comes higher responsibility, and you have to be able to, one, get there, but number two, know that in these types of situations where we are seeing once in a generation, once in a lifetime tragedies, that you would be able to stand at the helm. That's a very particular point that I often remind when candidates meet with me. I ask them, like, are you physically, mentally, and spiritually able to withstand 41,000 people coming to you? Like, you need to have the gravity of something like that. Can you stand on, but the kids say, can you stand on business even when it is not popular? Can you face your people? Like, that's something that I try to get when I mentor candidates in this space. I often remind them that every day is not a good day. Probably every week is not a good week. Probably every month is not a good month. But you still have to show up and do a job and serve your people. And I don't get it right all the time. Like, I'm gonna be quite honest with you. I don't get it right all the time. So that's where I have, advisors to kind of move me back into place, trusted advisors to move me back into place. But also, like, I have a team that supports me as well. And simply acknowledging that you don't get it right all the time, that is a humble aspect of leadership. That is a key characteristic of a leader. Key characteristic.
No, a lot of cats can't admit that they were wrong, that they swung and they missed. I mean, that's not something common and something rare. What other women are there in this space? I mean, you're there, and we see the men.
Yep.
But that's why I called you. You're the only woman I saw.
Yeah. So there are other women in this space. Other women.
Faith and who's the other lady?
Director Johnson. So she was director of DOT. But when we talk about Councilwoman Dani McCray, one of the biggest lessons and opportunities for growth that I've learned from her is be thorough. She is very thorough, asking those questions. Well,
she has to be. I mean, her brother's a senator.
That is true, but I've learned that lesson.
And he came in. There was criticism of people already older blacks who had been in office, and the nepotism that followed. Thomas Branch's brother was city council person. So it's not the first time where the public is watching these elected officials and who they pass the ball to and how they have been critical.
Yeah.
Not any particular instances, but hey, look at you, you're empowering your brother, your sister, your mother, your father. Agnes Welch passing the ball to Pete Welch. Him passing it to his daughter. We've seen this before.
Yes. So, back to your question about, other women, Chairwoman Dani McCray, when I first came in, that was a lesson that I learned very, very early. And I'm still learning that lesson to this day. Councilwoman Sharon Green Middleton has shown me the historical and institutional aspect of being a Black woman in politics. And then also Councilwoman Odette Ramos. I think that, she has done an exemplary job in this space from this tragedy, really linking to the Latino community. So, I mean, there are, again, I often remind people, simply because you're not seeing the work or not seeing them in the media or pictures and things of that nature does not mean that they are not giving me encouragement. They are not giving me advice, giving me strategy in order to execute fully. And I do the same thing for them as well. Whatever, in Councilwoman Ramos' district, she had an incident and a tragedy. Look, we are on standby. We're on standby to help. Look, I keep telling people it's
Who
not
can
easy.
help me
It's
with
not a
these
one-on-one.
damn bike lanes and these flex posts in the middle of the damn street? I'm coming down Hill Road trying to go around Montebello, and the damn flex post is so far out in the middle of. I want to know who put it there, and what is their academic training to suggest I need to be all the way out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
At North Avenue.
Yeah.
You talk about DOT and Department of Transportation.
Yes.
How in the hell you got a 3-lane street narrowed down to 1 lane, making everybody have to get up an hour and a half earlier just to get across North Avenue?
Yeah. So you want to
people? Where do they live?
So they live.
People live right there where they put them damn flex posts.
Yes. Well, I do have those issues in my district as well. But I believe I had a conversation about a month
Roland Park told them to kick rocks. Get out of here. We're not having it.
Well, yes. But also here's the thing that I often remind people. Ain't
nobody riding no bikes over here, council lady.
But just listen, hear me now. Can hear me now. So there are people in the city that ride bikes. There needs to be better community. There are.
6,
there needs
7 people.
No. There needs to be better community engagement, but quite frankly, we need to start elevating this conversation. It is not simply about bike lanes. When we are talking about complete streets and the federal funding that is associated with it, is talking about
the federal funding. Maybe we don't need the federal funding. Maybe they should put that federal funding on fixing the infrastructure, like these pipes that burst every 5 minutes.
That is correct, but that is a separate pot of funding. So you have the IRA, and then you also have Complete Streets, 2 different sets of funding that are accomplishing, some of the same goals. When we talk about transit, when we talk about comprehensive transit throughout the city, when we talk about multimodal transit throughout the city, we need to.
We got a damn subway that goes from Johns Hopkins straight out to Owens Mills. That's not a damn public transportation system. That's no more than a damn monorail.
It's not. No, it's not. But hear me when I say this. Those conversations that have happened decades ago, they were some of the same conversations that we are having now. And because we lacked vision and infrastructure and also the funding, we are where we are now. So we gotta expand ourselves a little bit when we start talking about transit throughout Baltimore City. And
the problem is you got white people making a decision. You look at planning; they've got 1 black person in a 63% black city working in planning. 1 black person.
Who is that person?
Is it Stacy Smith?
No, because I know multiple black people that work in the Department of Planning.
So black people are responsible for wanting to narrow Fremont Avenue and widen the sidewalk. Black people are responsible for that.
What do you mean black people are responsible for that? One of the things that I think we're getting at the
last check, there was 1 African-American making key decisions in planning, just like housing. I'm not knocking the white lady, but this is a 63% black city. I'm not sure that Alice Kennedy understands Sandtown, East Baltimore. I'm not sure, because look at what I've seen. There are 3 vacants next door. There are firefighters who are dying in vacants.
That is correct.
There are firefighters who can't get around these flex posts up narrow streets. Not that this is your fault, but
but I often remind people we need to elevate the conversation. We need to elevate. We need better. We need better. No. Don't kick the can down the road. We need better community engagement. And that's a valid point that I often hear Linda Batts and Miss Marsha and Desmond Stinney bringing forth. We need better community engagement. And I'm not invalidating that. I completely agree with that. However,
Jack said when he signed the bill, he wished he hadn't after he saw what he had signed. And it's too late. Jack Young, who was then mayor.
Former Mayor Jack Young, yes.
He said he wished he didn't sign what he did regarding the bike lanes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I know it takes me damn near 30 minutes to get across North Avenue. And then they say, well, take an alternative route. Okay, we talking about Druid Park Drive. You come off of 28th Street, and again, you got this single lane traffic. And I'm sure the people over there love it who live there in Hamden. I don't know.
Well, I look forward to having these conversations with you again, Doni.
Power to the people, Councilwoman Phylicia Porter. Plug that fundraiser one more time for us.
It is tonight. It starts at 6:30, and it's at Evans's house.
Okay, and you'll send the details.
Yes, sir. We'll do.
Black on spot. Have you been there before?
I have. Yeah, I have.
What's good there?
They got a bunch of stuff that's good there. So tonight I'm gonna have just kind of like finger food. They have a chicken and salmon that's pretty good. They have a chicken masala that's pretty good. So they got good stuff there. I like it.
Keep shining. Thank you very much for joining us. Up to date, down tomorrow, do your day, and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it, regardless of how I feel. We are proud of you.
Thank you. Keep us in prayer.
I am somebody. I am my brother's keeper. Good morning, world.